Hello there. I'm so glad you're here because today we're going to talk about something most people avoid, but every senior feels deep down. Not just the fear of dying, but the quiet ache of fading, of waking up one day and realizing you've started pulling back. Not because you want to, but because your body, your energy, your world seems to be shrinking. You're still here, but it doesn't always feel like you're fully living. Here's the truth. Most seniors don't struggle because of one big health crisis. It's not always cancer or a heart attack or some terrible diagnosis. For so many, it's the slow erosion caused by five invisible forces that chip away at your life without making a sound. One small change here, one forgotten habit there. And before you know it, you're living smaller, moving less, feeling a little more invisible every day. But, and this is so important, those forces are not a life sentence. They can be reversed. I've watched seniors come back from the edge of decline with more strength, clarity, and peace than they had 10 years earlier. This video isn't about magical thinking. It's about real change, backed by research and lived by people just like you. So if you're ready to stop fading and start reclaiming your time, your energy, and your joy, stay with me. Just 23 minutes. That's all it takes to start rewriting the story of how you age. And trust me, this chapter, it's going to be a good one. Part 1, the hidden cost of disconnection. We talk a lot about aging in terms of numbers, heart rate, cholesterol, bone density. But there's something much harder to measure that often determines the course of your later years more than any medical test. Who you talk to and who talks to you. Disconnection doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in slowly through the cracks of routine. A missed lunch with an old friend, a neighbor who moved away, a church group you stopped going to when your knees started aching. Life gets quieter, and somewhere along the way, so do you. Not because you want to, but because no one's listening the way they used to. And while it may seem like an emotional burden, researchers now know it's more than that. It's a physical one. Loneliness literally changes your body. It increases inflammation, weakens your immune system, and accelerates cognitive decline. Your balance, your wound healing, even how steady your heartbeat is, these are all affected by how connected you are to other people. We weren't made to age alone. I met Harold 2 years ago. He was 79 and sharp as a tack, but slower in his steps and quieter than his usual self. His daughter had moved in with him after his wife passed, and while she handled his meals and appointments, something in him had dimmed. He no longer met up with his fishing buddies. He'd stopped going to the diner where the waitress knew his usual. When I asked him what he missed most, he didn't hesitate. He said, "I miss someone saving me a seat." It struck me then how powerful those small routines are. We don't just need people. We need places where we matter. We need to know someone notices when we don't show up. We need our names remembered, our stories heard, our silence questioned. But the beauty of connection is that it can be rebuilt. Not all at once, but one moment at a time. It might be a regular check-in call every Wednesday with a former coworker. It could be joining a painting class, even if you haven't held a brush in 20 years. It might mean calling the church office and saying, "I'd like to help out again if you'll have me." These aren't just social tasks. They're anchors that keep you from drifting. So let me ask you, who anchors you right now? Who would notice if you missed a day? And even more importantly, who are you showing up for? Because the secret isn't more people, it's meaningful presence. One or two souls who remind you that you still belong, still matter, still have a role to play in someone else's day. Disconnection may have crept in quietly, but connection, real, healing, heart-deep connection, can return with just one conversation, one invitation, one yes. And from there, everything else begins to heal. Part 2. Purpose. The fuel of long life. There's something we all want, quietly, in the background of every day. Not more things, not more praise, not even more time. What we truly long for is to still feel relevant, to know we matter, to wake up and think, someone needs me today. That's not ego, that's purpose. And it turns out, it's one of the most powerful forces for longevity we've ever studied. Purpose isn't about titles or career success. It's about contribution, showing up for the world in some small but meaningful way. Researchers have found again and again that seniors who maintain a sense of usefulness have better sleep, lower inflammation, and even slower rates of memory decline. It's not luck. It's biological alignment. The body fights to stay alive when it feels like it's still needed. Margaret, a retired accountant, thought she was done contributing. She had a tidy home, a small garden, and quiet days. But when she heard that her town had rising food insecurity, families skipping meals, kids going to school hungry, something inside her stirred. That garden became a mission. Within 6 months, she had organized volunteers, secured an empty lot, and transformed it into a thriving community garden. Fresh produce flowed to those in need, and something remarkable happened. Margaret's arthritis symptoms began to ease. Her sleep improved. She reported feeling 10 years younger. That's not a miracle. That's purpose at work. Then there's Calvin, a Vietnam veteran in his late 70s. He doesn't speak much about the past, but what he does talk about are the 5 boys he mentors every Saturday morning. Each comes from a single-parent home. Calvin doesn't give speeches. He teaches them how to fix engines, build things, solve problems with their hands. He listens. They open up. One of the boys recently told him, "You're the only man I know who shows up." Calvin never set out to be a hero. He just wanted to use what he knew. And now he's living with a purpose that pulses in every heartbeat. So how do you find your own? It doesn't have to be public. It doesn't have to be big. Purpose can be as quiet as baking for your neighbor or reading aloud to children at the library. It lives at the intersection of what you care about and what someone else needs. Here's a simple exercise. Draw 4 boxes and fill them in. What you love doing, what you know well, who needs it, how you might offer it. We call this your heart map. Somewhere in that cross-section lies the next chapter of your meaning. Because no matter your age, you still have gifts. You still have wisdom, patience, humor, insight, things the world needs more of, not less. So ask yourself today, what still lights you up when you talk about it? Maybe it's music, or baking, or fixing, or guiding. Whatever it is, that's not just a memory. That might be your calling. And here's the beautiful part. When you follow that spark, your body follows too. You sleep better, you move more, you age slower because your life isn't winding down. It's shifting gears into something richer than before. Part 3, the medication trap. Some people say growing older means losing a little bit of yourself each year. You forget a few names, you get tired more easily, you feel less sharp than you used to. But what if that fading isn't really age at all? What if it's coming from somewhere closer to home? Your own medicine cabinet. There's a silent crisis affecting millions of older adults. It's not the name of one disease. It's a buildup of good intentions gone unexamined. It's called polypharmacy, and it happens when you're on multiple medications, often from different doctors, treating different symptoms without a full picture of what's really going on. At first, it makes sense. One pill for blood pressure, another for cholesterol, a third for sleep, maybe something for heartburn, something for nerves, and something to balance out the side effect of something else. But slowly, without meaning to, the line between treatment and harm gets blurry. And the result is what many seniors describe as feeling foggy, not fully here, not fully themselves. I want to introduce you to Dolores. She's 80, independent, and sharp as a tack, or at least she used to be. A few months ago, her daughter noticed changes. Dolores wasn't reading as much. She repeated herself more. She started avoiding stairs and even meals. The family worried it was dementia, but when they did a deep dive into her medications, they found she was on 11 different prescriptions prescribed by 4 doctors who had never spoken to each other. Some drugs canceled each other out. Some amplified side effects. And some were treating problems caused by the other pills. With the help of a geriatric pharmacist and a patient, thoughtful doctor, they did a full medication audit, and within 2 months, Dolores was down to 5 medications, each one essential, each one monitored. And that fog, it started to lift. She didn't become 20 again, but she became herself again. This is why I recommend what we call the brown bag review. Once a year, gather every single medication you take, prescriptions, over-the-counter, supplements, and place them all in a simple brown bag. Take it to a trusted pharmacist or geriatric specialist and ask, can we review these together? In that conversation, ask 3 questions that could change your health trajectory. What is this really treating? Do I still need it today? Is it helping or just reacting to something else? Because here's the thing, we're taught to trust our prescriptions, but sometimes trust means asking the right questions, not staying silent. It means remembering that your health is a full picture, not a list of symptoms managed in separate rooms. So take a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you asked why you're still taking that pill? Not out of fear or disrespect, but out of love for your own clarity, your own dignity, your own life. You deserve to feel alert, grounded, awake. You deserve care that sees you, not just your chart. And sometimes the path to reclaiming yourself starts not with a diagnosis, but with a bag full of bottles and a conversation you've waited too long to have. Part 4, Gut Health, your body's forgotten control center. We spend our lives listening to the loud parts of our bodies, our heartbeat, our breath, the strength in our legs, the sharpness in our mind. But there's a part of you that whispers instead of shouts, one that often gets overlooked until things start going wrong. It's your gut. And it might be the missing piece in why you haven't felt like yourself lately. As we age, we expect some aches, some forgetfulness, a little slowing down. But sometimes it's more than that. You wake up feeling heavy, not just in your joints, but in your whole self. You find it hard to focus. Your mood dips without warning. You feel full too quickly or bloated by foods that never used to bother you. And you begin to wonder if this is just what aging feels like. But what if it isn't? What if what's weighing you down isn't your age? It's inflammation quietly spreading from your gut, reaching into your brain, your immune system, your very sense of vitality. Science now confirms what many elders have quietly sensed. The gut is the crossroads of the body. It doesn't just digest food, it produces neurotransmitters like serotonin. It regulates your immune response. And it constantly communicates with your brain through what researchers now call the gut-brain immune triangle. When your gut is out of balance, every part of you feels it, even if you don't realize where it started. Let me tell you about Helen. She's 74, and for years she lived with chronic stiffness and low energy. She'd stopped playing piano, stopped walking with friends, even stopped traveling to see her grandchildren because she always felt off. She called it old age, but even though something inside her knew that wasn't the full story. One day, during a nutrition workshop at her senior center, she heard a phrase that startled her. You can't think clearly if your gut is inflamed. That night, she went home and cried, not from fear, but from recognition. She started a gentle gut healing protocol the next week. Within just a month, Helen wasn't just digesting better, she was sleeping more deeply, laughing more often, and playing music again. Not because she took a magic pill, but because she gave her body what it needed to reset. If this sounds familiar, you don't have to start with big changes. Try a 3-day gut reset that's gentle and healing. Sip mineral-rich broths that soothe the lining of the gut. Choose steamed vegetables over raw to reduce digestive stress. Include simple probiotics like plain yogurt, kefir, or fermented veggies. Then, build slowly by adding gut-loving foods like oats to reduce inflammation, ground flaxseed to support digestion, miso, lentils, or cooked apples, which gently feed your microbiome. The key is consistency, not perfection. No diets, no guilt, just a return to nourishment. We've also created a downloadable low-inflammation grocery guide. It's linked right below this video to help you get started easily. So now, let me ask you with care. When was the last time you felt light in your belly, steady in your mood, and clear in your mind? If you can't remember, that's okay. Because your body remembers how to feel good. It just needs a little help getting back there. You're not broken. You're just overdue for a reset. And your gut, the most forgotten part of your body, may just hold the key to feeling like yourself again. Part 5, Stress and Sleep, the silent accelerators. There's a kind of tired that no amount of coffee can fix. It's the tired that settles in your bones, in your thoughts, in the quiet parts of your day. And sometimes it has nothing to do with age and everything to do with how well you're sleeping and how well you're handling the stress you don't always talk about. As we age, sleep becomes more than just rest. It becomes a form of survival, a way for the brain to clean itself, for the body to recover, for the heart to find calm again. But the relationship between sleep and stress after 65 is delicate, like a teeter-totter that's easily thrown off balance. One bad night triggers stress hormones like cortisol, and those hormones then make it even harder to sleep the next night. The result? A cycle that quietly accelerates aging, weakening memory, softening muscle, dulling our resilience. Elizabeth knows that feeling. She's 76, widowed, and used to be a sound sleeper. But after a year of change and quiet grief, her nights became fractured. She'd wake at 3 a.m., staring into the dark, her thoughts circling. Her doctor suggested medication, but Elizabeth wanted something gentler, something sustainable. What worked for her was a simple routine. Soft instrumental music, a small journal where she wrote just one sentence of gratitude, and a warm lavender compress across her eyes. Slowly, her nights grew calmer, her mornings steadier. Then there's Harold, 78, a grandfather who thought his daily naps were harmless, just part of getting older. But his granddaughter noticed he seemed groggier, more withdrawn. At her encouragement, Harold tried a few changes. He started cutting out long naps, spending more time in the sun during the late afternoon, and turning off the TV earlier in the evening. He also switched to a weighted blanket and applied magnesium lotion on his legs before bed. Within weeks, he was sleeping deeper and smiling again over breakfast. The truth is, rest isn't passive, it's a practice. And your body, even now, knows how to heal if you give it the right signals. Start with the hourglass method, so structure your day into movement, pause, and movement again. A short walk in the morning, a restful break after lunch, and a little evening activity, maybe light stretching or gentle chores. This cycle tells your body it's safe to let go at night. Then build a wind-down playlist, music that slows your breath and signals stillness. Add layers of comfort. Warm socks to ground your nervous system, a weighted blanket to simulate safety, and magnesium lotion to soothe your muscles. This isn't about perfection. It's about reclaiming peace, bit by bit, night by night. So let me ask you from the heart, what's the hardest part of sleep for you right now? Is it falling asleep, staying asleep? Feeling rested when you wake? Share it in the comments. You're not alone. And someone reading may have the tip that changes your night. You don't need to accept restless nights as the cost of growing older. You deserve deep healing rest. The kind that helps your memory stay sharp, your heart stay steady, and your spirit feel whole. And that rest, it's still possible. Tonight could be the beginning. Part 6. The longevity loop. How it all comes together. If you've ever watched a row of dominoes fall, you know how one small motion can set everything else in motion. But what if instead of falling, those dominoes were rising, each one lifting the next, creating not a collapse, but an upward spiral? That's what happens when we begin to heal not one part of our life, but the connection between them. Because the truth is, our sleep, our stress, our digestion, our medications, our sense of purpose, they don't exist in silos. They're part of a living web, a loop where each thread pulls on the next. Fix one, even gently, and the others start to shift too. Let me tell you about Daniel. He was 86, living quietly, growing smaller in his world with each passing month. He'd stopped going to church, stopped calling friends, stopped trying to explain the fog he felt in his head. His daughter suggested a medication review just to see if anything had changed. That one act, just a quiet sit-down with a pharmacist, led to a small adjustment in dosage. The next week, he started waking up a little clearer. He began walking outside again. A neighbor invited him to join their Saturday coffee group. He said yes. From there, it built. He slept better, started eating better, needed fewer pills. And most important of all, he began mentoring a young boy in his building, a fatherless child who needed a steady hand and a listening ear. Daniel found something he hadn't felt in years. Not youth, meaning. What changed wasn't everything. It was something, and that something created momentum. You see, the body and spirit want to recover, but they need a signal, a starting point, a sign that says, we're moving now. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be yours. That's what the longevity loop teaches us, that your healing is not a checklist, but a current. And when you find the first stone to step on, the others appear beneath your feet. So if you're sitting there thinking, I've waited too long, my time has passed, I want to tell you something from the heart. You're not too late. You're right on time. You've lived enough to know what matters. You've felt enough to know what hurts. And you still have enough breath to make a new choice. You don't need a miracle. You need a beginning. One gesture, one phone call, one walk, one yes to the life you still deserve. Let the loop begin. It's ready, and so are you. Before you click away, take one quiet breath with me. Let this be your moment, not just of reflection, but of decision. Which of the 5 changes we talked about today speaks to you most? Maybe it's healing your gut. Maybe it's getting a better night's sleep. Maybe it's simply calling an old friend. Whatever it is, that's your first step. That's the start of your next chapter. Type it below. Not just for you, but for someone else reading. Someone who needs a little hope today. Your story might be the sign they've been waiting for. And if this video stirred something in you, if it helped you feel seen, encouraged, or just less alone, share it with someone you love. Pass the light forward. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Real tools, real stories, and real life ways to stay strong, stay steady, and stay independent well into your 90s. This isn't the end. It's the beginning.